Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Starseed School. I am your host, Alexis Christine, and today I have a really interesting topic for you guys. This is going to hit really hard, I think, with people who consider themselves light workers, starseeds, or anyone who is on this path to help others. And I want to talk today about toxic relationships and basically what we learn from them and how long we are willing to stay, if that makes sense. So, as you guys know, I had this crazy experience in Costa Rica last year, and it was a super toxic environment. I've touched on it in episode number 1. It was like a whole ordeal, right? And I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about our experiences with basically with just like toxic men or toxic relationships, or basically relationships that cause a lot of pain and hurt, but also cause a lot of healing, right? So you have to go through the triggers, you have to go through the wounds to then heal them and come out the other side. So it kind of feels like an up and down, and it's really intense and really hard to go through. And she asked me, knowing everything that you know, when it comes up again, like if it comes up again, would you do it again for the growth? And I had to think about it for a second. And honestly, my answer was no. Not because I don't want the growth, but because I really had to think about how much I lost myself and how much my health suffered during that whole experience. That is the healing of someone else worth the loss of yourself? That was the question that it really came down to. And that's why my answer was no. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the reasoning and these kinds of experiences. And honestly, I'm curious to know if you guys have the same experiences. So if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below after you've listened. I'm really curious to see kind of what everyone else's take on this is. So for me, every single relationship I've had in the past, I have lost myself in. I have never felt safe to be my own authentic self once I've been in the relationship. In the dating stage, getting to know you stage, I'm always me. But as soon as we cross that line from casually dating, seeing each other, whatever, into we are officially in a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, that's where everything always changes for me. And I want to preface my situation in Costa Rica was not a romantic relationship, but we were living together. We were sharing a bed. We were basically like a platonic life partnership. Okay. So I'm still counting it as a form of relationship. And so when this happens to me every single time, I tend to lose myself in the relationship because I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of losing that person. And it might sound funny saying that I have a fear of rejection because I'm literally posting myself online all the time, but it's different. I have a fear of rejection from the people who I value. So this is in friendships too. This is in relationships. Anytime I meet someone or I'm with someone and I value them and I don't want to lose them, they're valuable to me, that's when the fear of rejection comes in because I don't want to lose them. So if people online are hating, like, I don't care. Go do you, stay asleep, be an asshole, like heal your trauma and you'll move on. You know, like I genuinely don't care. It's when people that I love, that I care about, I have that fear of them rejecting me. And so in every single relationship, once we got to the stage where it was like, okay, yeah, like we really mean something to each other now, I stopped being who I was and I started putting that person's needs in front of my own every single time. Every single time. Even if it was as little as like, actually, I don't want to do this activity, but you're going and I want to be with you. And like, I don't want you to feel weird that I said no, so I'm going to go. Like, and that's friendships too. Like there's things in friendships where it's like, well, I don't want to not be with you and not hang out with you if we're all going to be together, like, you know, FOMO. So I'm just going to go anyway, even though what I know is true for me and what my energy is feeling right now is actually that I just need to be home by myself and journal, or I need to meditate, or I need a break from social gatherings. Like, it's always putting that other person first and putting myself second. And that is how you end up losing yourself. You lose who you are. You lose your authenticity. You lose all the practices and the interests and the activities that make you you, because you're so attached to this other person or these other people that you just latch on to whatever it is they're doing. And a lot of people experience this in society in general with wanting to be accepted. They lose their sense of self, of who they truly are, and just go to with whatever society is saying is the thing to do at the moment. And you lose yourself. And so with this last relationship specifically, well, actually this one and the one before that, I was so concerned with their well-being that I stopped caring about myself, and I stopped caring about what was best for me and was only focusing on them. And yes, there were some really beautiful moments. Like, it wasn't horrible the whole time. Obviously, there was beautiful moments. That's how we got to the place where we were such deep-seated soulmates, you know? Like, there had to be beautiful moments. Our souls have lived together for thousands of lives over and over. It's always going to be there. But it caused so much pain at the same time. And at first, it was working through wounds. It was, okay, I have this wound. You're helping me work through it. You're helping me feel safe in this environment or through this experience. Great. Now we're healing that. Now I can move on. And it was like, it caused a lot of pain at first, but there's certain relational wounds that you can only heal in relation. If you have trauma from relationships, you can't heal that trauma on your own all the way. You need to be in another relationship with someone who's going to help you heal the trauma, because you need to go through the experience again and have it end in a not traumatic way for your nervous system to regulate and heal and say, oh, actually, every time this happens, it's not bad. So there's certain things that you can only heal in relation with others. And so a lot of times when you're in these really deep soulmate relationships, I'm not going to use the word twin flame because I think that whole thing is BS, but when you're in these really deep soulmate relationships, there can be really hard times because you are healing wounds with each other and you're growing together. And you have to ask yourself, when you get to the point, is this no longer helping me? Is it hurting more than it's helping? And that's the point that I got to, specifically in the Costa Rica relationship. I was hurting way, way, way more than I was healing. And it brought me into such a deep, dark, depressive state. I was a shell, not even a shell, like a thin freaking layer of my former self, of who I truly was, because I was so metaphorically beaten down and crushed, and just, I did not feel like there was any way that I could be happy. And I was still so concerned, not even with doing things for myself, but with taking care of him. Like, I wasn't even a thought. Do you know what I mean? And in the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks before I left Costa Rica was when I started realizing, like, oh, I still need to put myself first. I still need to do things for myself. And that's when I started going to the gym again. That's when I started intentionally making time to go to the beach and taking time out for myself away from that environment. And so in that relationship, in that experience, there was a lot of growth and I learned a lot. And one of the things that I said to my friend when she asked me was, I now feel like from that experience, I learned all of the signs of when something isn't working, because in all these previous relationships, I was always so scared that I was never going to meet someone else, because I am very intentional with the relationships that I get into, and all of them are deep soul connections. I don't really do the casual thing. And so every time I meet one, I'm like, oh my God, well, I can't let this person go. They're my soulmate. What if I never find someone else again? Like, what if they're the one, blah, blah, blah. And I have this fear of never finding my divine masculine counterpart, because the one that I'm with right now has to be the one. And so I told my friend, like, well, actually, what I've learned from after this one and after the last one is that, like, I know that we have many soulmates, and I'm no longer scared of not being able to find the right one. So regardless of how deep a connection I have with someone is, it's not worth hurting myself in. I know that I can still choose myself, let them go, be grateful that I had the connection, and the right one will come along. And for me, that's a great learning. Like, I'm still so proud of that because that was not a learning that I had previously. And then that's when she asked me, well, would you do it again? And I was like, no. Now I know all of the signs and I know to trust myself when something doesn't feel right to just leave, and I'm not going to be scared to not find them again because I know that there will be more, there will be others. And she was like, do you think that that's all you learned? And I had to like think about it. And she was like, Lex, I think honestly for like one of the biggest things that you learned from that, and this is something that I'm learning in my own situation too, is your capacity to love. She was like, you were able to love someone so deeply to like such far depths that you lost yourself because you had so much love for them and you cared about them so much and you wanted them to be okay. This is like a side note. The reason it feels very intense is because he was basically a functioning drug addict, which I didn't know going into it. So a lot of me feeling like I needed to stay and take care of him was because of that. So it's not that intense in every situation. But she was like, out of that whole experience, you deepened your capacity to love and you learned how deeply you can love. And so not only can you then extend that to others in the future, but you can also extend that to yourself. And I was like, holy shit. She is so right. And I never thought about it that way. The capacity to love deepened with that whole experience. And then when I think back to the one previous, my capacity to love deepened with that too. That was the deepest, the hardest I had ever loved someone. And then it ended and, things went whatever. And then I met this one. And again, platonic as it was such a deep soul love. I had never loved someone more than I had loved him in my entire life. And I was like, holy crap. Every single time I have that experience, my capacity to love grows. And I'm shown more and more that all we truly are as beings is love. So anyway, I thought that was a really cool learning. And I wanted to share it with you guys because if anyone else has had these wild, crazy relationship experiences that feel like they are just really, really hard and they're hurting more than they're helping, one thing that you can get out of it is that you have deepened your capacity to love. And so now, while I still will be very careful in the future and trust my intuition the second something tells me it is not right, no matter how many things are great, no matter how deeply I care about them, I will not put myself through another process of losing me, of losing my authenticity, of losing my spark, my joy, who I am, and leaving my power. I know now not to be scared of the depth of love I have to give. And I know that what I deserve is someone who can give that depth back to me fully. Fully. No questions asked. And every single one of you deserves that too. So this is just your little reminder. Always put yourself first. Do not risk losing yourself for the attention, acceptance, or love of someone else, because no matter what, something better will come along, and someone who truly knows how to love you, how to be with you, that compliments you, will come forward as soon as you start putting yourself first. That is all for today, you guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Starseed School. Don't forget to like this episode, to subscribe on YouTube, to follow us on social media, starseedschool.pod or iam.alexischristine on Instagram and TikTok. And I will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.